Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Through the Eyes of a Therapist. I'm already laughing because I have one of my favorite guests on the show, Elisa. Yay! Hi, Elisa. How are you?
Hi everyone. How are you doing? I hope everyone is well.
Yes. So, Elisa, if you don't know her, she has been on previous episodes, and they are our most liked and pretty popular episodes, actually. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, that's really good. That's cool.
Yeah, so she's come out on like the Harry Potter episode and the introvert episode. And we always have lots to talk about. And today we're going to talk about keeping a New Year's resolution. So, this is the Through the Eyes of a Therapist podcast. And I really like to interview other therapists so that you can kind of see what's going on in our brains at any given moment. And so, we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions through the eyes of a therapist today. And did you know, according to goodmorningamerica.com, so scholarly, right? Most commonly, people aspire to lose weight, exercise more, quit smoking, or eat healthier. And many people abandon their resolution by a month or less into the year.
I mean that sounds
So,
about
in like
right
30
to
days.
me. Um, I used to always notice because I've got dogs, right, and I've been walking them forever, and always around January, I would notice a significant increase of people at the park with their dogs. And when you
Oh,
like regularly walk at a park, you're going more or less the same times of the day, you get to kind of know the people who always go with their dogs. You know, you kind of know, and because you see them all the time, and so you definitely notice, and you'll see a bunch of puppies and all this stuff, right? Well, sure enough, by like February, these same people are not walking their dogs anymore. You kind of stop seeing them at the park. So I mean, we all know,
oh.
and I'm sure most people have that experience of like going to crowded gyms, right? And then they get a little bit less crowded, um, February, March.
Wow, that's an interesting observation. So, you'd walk around the park and then suddenly, not suddenly, I'd say gradually, right? Like over time, you see less and less people walking their probably newly gifted Christmas puppies and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for sure. Which I always found a little bit sad because those dogs, they like to get walked. It's good for their mental health, right? Dog mental health. Um, but uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, that you notice suddenly a lot of sudden new people, and then an increase in about a month, right? I mean, a decrease in about a month. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would notice that. Yeah, so I do know, and I certainly have made resolutions in the past a while back. I haven't made resolutions in a long time. Have you?
Yeah, I think at some point I just gave up on making New Year's resolutions. I used to in the past, and they were most of them were like weight driven and things like that. But I
Yeah,
think over time, as I've become more comfortable with who I am in my own skin and my body, and how I've recognized that I think I'm more than just a number on a scale. I think that I've done less resolutions that are related to weight.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You talk about packed gyms. So, for example, I do have a gym membership, and during the holiday vacation, I didn't really do very much of really anything except work, right? I have to keep up with seeing my clients and things like that. But otherwise, like podcasting, um, content creation, all of that was kind of on hold, and including going to the gym was on hold because my son was home, right? So he was not at his little like escuelita. So um, I became like full time stay at home mom. And I'm kind of afraid to go back to the gym right now.
Yeah,
January 1st, 2nd, like this first week
I
of the
know,
gym, you
right?
know? Because
Yes. I'm kind of afraid to go back to so I have been working out regularly since June, but I had to
Mm-hmm.
stop because actually my trainer suddenly stopped. And so I stopped. We both like
Oh,
I kind of kept going for a little bit with plans she would send me on the phone. She had some car trouble and she had some health issues, so she had to take a little break. And then I got some food poisoning recently, and I kind of
what the
yeah
heck?
I have issues with the stomach. But then I dropped off as well, so now I'm like I feel like I'm starting next week too. I feel like, but I have been going this whole time except for like the last 2 weeks of December. It will be interesting because I think it is going to be packed because I go after work. There's a lot of people that go before work. I am not one of those
Mm-hmm.
people. I can't I can't get up that early personally. I feel physically ill trying to work out in the mornings. I don't know. I think it also has to do with my stomach. My stomach is just not awake that early, and I feel a bit nauseous. But
Hmm.
so I can't do it before work. But I go after work, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to see a lot of new people there that I don't usually see.
Yeah. I wonder how much money gyms are making right now. Makes me think of that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I don't know. I think people are trying to go back to the gyms now since we were kind of off during the pandemic. I don't know.
That too,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. I still get kind of a little bit creeped out about like touching gym equipment and
yeah,
people not wearing masks. I mean, it's kind of an enclosed area. People are breathing heavily. There's droplets in the air, right? And it's like, ugh,
yeah.
gym germ fest. I don't
Well, the
know.
gym I go to is fairly small, and so it doesn't have that many members. Um, so usually it's not that big of a problem. I don't know. I got used to germs again. I don't know. I got really good about just not touching my face and washing my hands as soon as I get home, even
Oh my
before I
gosh, I'm touching my
shower,
face right now.
because I've gotten pretty good at just when I'm out, just like trying to not touch so many things and not touching my face. And
Mm-hmm.
a habit I've picked up since the pandemic is just I get home and I go wash my hands. I mean, I washed my hands before, but not every time I went somewhere, you know? Um, but
Mm-hmm.
now that yeah, it's good to do that probably.
Yeah, like more frequent hand washing for sure. I think is a habit I've picked up as well. Yep. And I think over the holidays I noticed at the family gatherings, like I wasn't hugging people. I was like, "Hi." I would just like wave and I'm like, "Mm-mm, like you stay over there, I stay over here." And I hugged maybe like two or three people and then I would explain to them like I just don't really hug people anymore since the pandemic. I just don't want germs.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if people are honest about if they feel well or if they have a symptom or something. And then there's just so many people packed like sardines inside of a house. At least at our family gatherings, like my husband's family is so large. It was
yeah,
like
it's a
a
lot of
lot.
people.
So I'm like, mm-mm. Yeah, I'm like, no. And let's go outside. Let's sit outside. Like I don't want to be inside the house with poor circulation. Anyway, this is all tied back to New Year's resolution. um because of the gym. So, um yeah, I don't know when I will go back, but I'm probably going to have to go during a time. I have a 24-hour gym place.
Mm,
So I'm going to have to find a time where it's kind of dead, I think.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm going back next week, but I'm not sure actually. I should probably ask. I'm excited to go back actually. And I think people start off with resolutions like that, like just excited to do something new or you know, to set new intentions and new goals for themselves. But I think sometimes where people might feel like they're dropping off is when it doesn't become a part of their lifestyle and just kind of becomes this like chore, you know? And then
Mhm.
I think that's when people are kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't become part of their lifestyle as in like a ritual. Like when you brush your teeth in the morning, for
Right.
example. It's like that's just something you do.
Yeah.
I mean, most people I think do
Yeah,
that.
for sure. And I think that's when
So,
resolutions are more successful, when it just becomes a part of something that is a lifestyle change rather than some kind of a, I guess, a restriction. Like, I don't know, like I'm not going to eat any sugar anymore, or because when we feel restricted at some point, we're like, nah, I don't, I want sugar or I need sugar.
yeah, don't push the red button. I want to push the red button,
Yeah.
right? It's like that kind of like urge. It's like the opposite because humans are like that. It says in this Good Morning America article that habits or habit forming takes time, about 66 days on average. It takes to form a habit.
Well,
So that's like 2 months,
yeah.
más o menos.
I'd read that it takes 90 days to reform like a lifelong habit.
That's a long time. And for some reason, I thought it was like 21 days. I am very mistaken. I'm like, oh, 3 weeks, cool. Like, you read 3 months, and then this study said 66 days. So
Um,
I'm like, way, like, underestimating. But it makes sense. I mean, having to put that into practice for quite a long time
in long term, for
makes
sure. Yeah.
sense. Yeah. So, whatever that might
Right.
be.
And so that you can also get into that kind of just maintenance phase, right, of change.
Yes. And I think this also goes for like those kinds of New Year's resolutions. I was looking at something on Instagram a little earlier today um that talked about New Year's resolutions that don't have anything to do with weight because I think that that can be triggering for some people if they have like disordered eating patterns or like a bad relationship with food or body dysmorphia tendencies or things like that, right? Sometimes these, Nutrisystem commercials are like, join our gym for 5 cents a month or whatever, like things are
Yeah.
not like the healthiest content to come across. So sometimes people will do New Year's resolutions that are based on like something emotional or relational, right?
Right.
So, like, I'm gonna keep in touch with my family a little bit more, or I'm gonna schedule a phone date with my best friend, once every week or something like that. So, I think it could be applied to any New Year's resolution, I'm assuming, as long as it's any like behavior based habit.
For sure. And I think people are much more likely to stick to things long term if you're adding something to your life instead of restricting something to restricting something. Like if you take up a new hobby or you're learning a new skill and you are excited about that and you're enjoying learning about it and you're enjoying the process, I think it's much more likely to become part of your habits than if you're doing something that you don't really want to do. And something that used to happen to me when making resolutions back when I made resolutions is I'd kind of panic about like, I don't have a resolution. And I just like pick something, or like make one really kind of hastily and, not prepare for it. So yeah, I used to
Mm-hmm.
feel kind of obligated to have a resolution, and now I'm like, I don't do those, you know.
Yeah, screw that. Who cares anymore? I wonder if that comes with like age or like maturity or like worldview. I wonder because I know that when for sure when I was younger, like I was like, oh, resolutions.
Yeah,
But now I'm like, whatever, I don't care.
yeah. No, same. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a little bit of both, like both experience and age.
Yeah, that saying where it's like the older you get, you care less what people think.
Right.
I think that's a little bit. I'm finding that to be a little bit more true as I age a little bit more.
Yeah. For me as well, yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. And I'm not, going to invest into energy into things that are not healthy. I'm not going to stay in an unhealthy place or, with people who are just not um, providing that relationship that you want, that friendship or whatever, you know. So it's kind of like I don't have time for that, you know. You start to prioritize more like yourself and the things that make you happy and things like that, you know.
Mm-hmm, true. I think also like as far as the gym thing, right? For example, I think before it was very like unhealthy. I used to, in a past life, I think I've told you this before. You know this about me. I used to be a uh, fitness instructor, and it was really like an unhealthy, imbalanced relationship with like exercise and food. It was like teach 6 fitness classes, but eat a whole sleeve of Oreos every day. Like it was really bad. Um, and whatever, my body was fine and it looked good because of how much exercise I was engaging in, but that was really bad. Now that I'm older, my knees and my back are like, what did you do to me? Um, so I'm paying for it later on. But I think now that I go to the gym, it's more like for my mental health. And I know that I'm doing it for like my heart health or
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm doing it so my back can be strong.
right,
Not like so I can look a certain way and eat a sleeve of Oreos every day.
right.
Like it's not that weird imbalance, like
It's a healthier,
disordered.
healthier relationship with the
Mm-hmm.
gym.
Yeah, for sure. It's more like, okay, I just need to keep myself sane.
Right.
And I understand that I sit all day and sitting is like the new smoking. And so I know that I can't be sitting all day and I have to be strong because I have a toddler that I chase around every day. You know, so it's very different now. That I'm older. It's like, okay, I've got to like maintain the machine.
Right.
So I can make it into old age with some mobility, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quality of life, right, becomes more important when you're a little bit older. Just maintaining that, being able to do the things that you do, being stronger and such.
I wonder if that's what people maybe should consider when they're setting New Year's resolutions, because I think that's what's problematic about the resolution mindset, right? Is that people put that emphasis on the short term. Like, okay, I can keep this up for like 30, 40, 60 days, or even like up to 6 months or a year or
Hmm.
something. And I think the people who are successful at setting a New Year's resolution that sticks for a lifetime is that long term focus, right?
Yeah,
Is like, okay, how does this improve my quality of life overall? How is this going to give me longevity in my body? For example, like long term mobility or mental health into my old age, or if I am dealing with mental illness, how does this play into my self-care and all of that other stuff, like the bigger picture sort of thing.
yeah, for sure. I've really, since I've been so consistent for the last 6 months with the gym, it has really changed kind of what I'm able to do. You know, like I don't know, I'll lift something and I'll notice that it doesn't feel heavy, you know, or I'm not struggling with it and things like that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that is like, that's the encouragement that you kind of want instead of, you know, in the past when you focus on a number, right? A number, hitting a specific number or doing something that's extremely quantifiable. Sorry, my dog is coughing.
Oh, it's okay.
I don't know if you heard that, but either way, Whiskey,
A little
say
bit.
excuse me. Um,
Oh, whiskey.
but uh, but yeah, so that has been my motivation to kind of continue going. Is I want to feel stronger. You know,
Yeah, for sure. Like I want to be able to carry a bag of dog food into my trunk without help,
right?
right? Or like put my toddler in their car seat for as long as they need or
Yeah, and
whatever without like breaking myself.
that's where I first noticed it too. Like I went to academy with a friend who can't lift because she had like surgery on her shoulder, and she needed one of those, you know, long one of those tent things. What do you call them? The canopy. Um,
Oh yeah.
so I was like, oh, I'll get those for you, you know, and I just was like lifting them into the cart all like nothing.
With your strong ass shoulders all buff.
But
That's cool.
but that would have been a little bit. I would have been struggling before. I would have been like, ugh, uh, just
Mhm.
struggling to move them before. And I really like feeling, more fit, so to speak.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Thanks.
That is great. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, no, I really like lifting. I think the problem was all along I've never liked cardio very much, um, but I really enjoy lifting.
Lifting's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. One quick story. I every time that I try yoga, I hurt
Oh,
myself.
oh no.
Like in the very first movement, I think it's called like a sunset something, like where you
Yeah.
bend at your waist. Immediately just like my back gives
Oh
out.
no. How
Mhm.
many times have you
And I
tried it
fall over
that you know this now?
like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, I'm gonna go to a yoga class. I'm gonna do it. I go to like a rec center. I go to like a legit yoga person. I've tried like a private yoga lesson. I've done YouTube. Like, I'm just like, and no, I don't learn my lesson. I just, anyway, so I cannot include that, at least that movement in yoga. Like, I can, as long as I skip that first movement,
Yeah.
sun salutation, I don't know, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. It's just not gonna happen. I can't. I don't know why. Anyway, I have a question
Yes.
for you. What is your opinion on people who want to include like therapy or going to therapy for their like New Year's resolution?
Um, I mean, I think that's a good resolution, for sure. And I think though that so I read a lot, and I'm reading a book right now where the it's a biography. So the person goes to a ther has been going to a therapist for a while, and this is the first time the therapist brings up, like, do you know that this is kind of abuse because her mother was kind of emotionally very abusive to her, and um, and she leaves and she never goes back, right? And that's kind of
Oh, shoot.
an example of kind of the person not well both, because sometimes as a therapist it's a struggle to find that balance of, you know is the client ready for this kind of conversation or this reframing of something that has been their whole life, and they see it a different way
Mm-hmm.
than how we see it, maybe. Right. So we know it's a
Yeah.
fine balance, and we know it can be challenging, but I wonder if people who set that resolution, if they've thought about, um, if they're ready to explore things that sometimes may be uncomfortable. Now, that's not to say therapy is going to be uncomfortable every time you go, and it should not feel that way. I'm just wondering if sometimes people are maybe unprepared. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. I don't know if unprepared is the right word.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like misinformed or like and I think that's why like informed consent's really important, right? Like throughout the whole process, like tell the therapist and not formally in every session, right? Like, oh, let us go over how this content may or may not trigger you today, right? But
Right.
like just kind of going over in very simple terms, like, I like for example, I tell my clients sometimes, like, oh, this is one of those examples of like how therapy sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
And they just like laugh because it's true. Like sometimes therapy is full of like epiphanies and revelations, and they're like, hell yeah, I feel empowered, like screw these people.
Yeah.
Or like I feel validated and like vindicated and all these things, right? And they feel really victorious and like powerful, right? And then sometimes they're like, holy shit, this is awful.
Hmm.
Like I'm super triggered, or wow, I didn't realize that I have to mourn all this like life that I lost or whatever it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that's horrible for them.
For sure.
And yeah, and I think that being able to tell clients in some way that like therapy is not rainbows and unicorns, or it's not like just this trendy thing where it's like, oh, you know, yes, you will engage in self discovery and it will help you live a more fulfilled life, but it doesn't come at some sort of
Yeah,
discomfort or
right.
like cost.
Yeah, and this person writes that they were absolutely very defensive, right, in that session, and they weren't ready to see their mom in a different way. So
Mm-hmm.
they themselves,
Which is really
yes,
insightful.
now acknowledge, like, it wasn't the therapist's fault. She wasn't ready to do that
Mm-hmm.
part or that work yet, right? And I
Yeah.
haven't finished it, but if she's talking like that, it sounds like she has since gained a lot of more insight, awareness, and I think I'm now at the part where she goes to another therapist specializing in eating disorders because she had an eating disorder as well. But so she definitely gave it another shot, right? And sometimes that happens. You have to like find someone else or whatnot. But she herself is acknowledging at that time when I first went, I wasn't prepared for all that stuff. And that can happen. So all I would say is just like, and this is not to scare anyone off of therapy or anything like that. It's just to kind of see what your reasons are kind of for going, and are you ready for all the good, empowering stuff? And are you aware that sometimes the session's not like that? Right. Not every time, but every now and then it's going to be a difficult session, maybe, depending on your life and trauma and all that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, that's well said. And I think for therapists listening to this section and maybe considering why clients leave or disappear, remembering that everybody has their own internal processes and reasons, right? It's like we can't really ever take that personally. I mean, there are some times where we just clearly F up. And it's like, okay, we did harm in the relationship and I'm glad that the client left or whatever. Like, and you should take ownership of that and like try to repair. But if, sometimes the client is just not ready or you've led them to a place where that's as far as they can go with you and it's okay to accept that and
Yeah.
then let them like rest, or it's like you've planted that seed for them and then it'll get watered and sunlight and all of that with another person or with another life situation, or they'll process on their own and then they'll return at a later time, or they'll become insightful or mature on their own or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like self actualization can happen at any other point in time. It just makes me think of that too on the other side.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think everyone has experienced that at some point. And sometimes you're able
Mm-hmm.
to avoid it or backtrack or realize very quickly how uncomfortable the other person is and kind of slow down. Sometimes you're
Mm-hmm.
able to do that, and there's other times where you're just not, or like you said, you make a mistake or you go too fast or whatnot, and you can't. But I think it's good to have that discussion just around like self awareness on both parts, right? Both the therapist and kind of the client, what they're prepared for, and just always testing those waters. But I think that's a great resolution, though, because deciding to go to therapy means that you want to kind of work on yourself or work some stuff out or process some things that you haven't had a chance to do. So it is a good, it's taking care of your mental health.
Absolutely. Do you have any final points or tips? I would say my only tip for a resolution is something called habit stacking. So let's say you have a resolution of going to the gym, for example, and you are already watching Netflix, or you already listen to podcasts, or you already read books. You should stack those habits together and do them at the same time. So, for example, I'm catching up on Love is Blind. Uh, I think it's the third season, but I will not watch it unless I am on some sort of treadmill or bike.
Ah,
And then I turn it off when I'm not on a treadmill or bike.
oh, so you're kind of connecting that exercise to like a reward kind of at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's my tip of the day for New Year's resolutions.
Maybe that needs to be a podcast we do on that show because I watch that as well. But
Oh, the third one, the third, yeah. Oh God, that's a whole thing, right? I know. Ugh, we should. We will.
okay. But anyway, final thoughts. I think just be patient with yourself. As far as when you set goals for yourself, just being patient and acknowledging that all change takes time. It takes time. It takes, and not to try and be perfect with that resolution all the time because then it becomes black and white thinking. Like the example I gave with sugar, as in, like, I can never have sugar again. It's a pretty hard goal to meet, but if you frame it differently, like, I'll try to make healthy choices today. I'm gonna make good choices for lunch instead of I can never have X, Y, or Z. It becomes a much more positive way to frame it. So that would be my advice as far as resolutions.
Mm-hmm. That's good advice. I like that. Yeah. So making it a little bit less like pressured instead of so clear cut. Then you'll set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nice. So look out for our next recording together. Thank you, Elisa, for coming back on to Through the Eyes of a Therapist
Thank you
podcast.
for having me. It had been a while since I had been on, so I'm glad to be back.
Yes. Thank you so much. And until next
Bye,
time.
everyone.